Hi there, let's talk about distributive property today. So distributive property is a algebra concept that you really need to understand in order to be successful. You will find distributive property fairly often in algebra problems, so it's really important that you understand how to actually accomplish it. And it's pretty easy, I think. It's pretty straightforward as long as, again, you understand it. So let's start with the root word distribute, which is in distributive. So distribute means, well, there's a lot of meanings for it, but one of my favorite meanings for distribute is to give away, okay? So if I was giving something away, I'd be distributing it. For example, I teach this typically around Halloween, and when the trick-or-treaters come to the door, so what I explain to my students is when trick-or-treaters come to my door, I distribute candy to them. So I'm giving it away. So let's apply that to the math and let's see how it goes. So distributive property problems are typically set up with a term that's attached to a parenthesis, and then inside the parentheses you could have many different terms. So you could have one term, you could have multiple terms. And what you have to understand is that whatever's attached to the parenthesis is going to be multiplied to everything inside the parenthesis. So let's start with something simple. So this problem right here, okay, means 5 times 3. This right here means to multiply. Okay, and this is a nice simple one because it doesn't have any other operations in it. But literally you are distributing. You are multiplying 5 times 3. Okay, so this is the distribution. All right, and 5 times 3 is equal to 15. Okay, let's apply that to something a little bit more challenging. So what if I have 6 times 3 plus 4? Okay, and you might be looking at this one and you might be saying, that looks like an order of operations. I just do the parentheses first, and then I would multiply, which technically you could do that, but we're working through distributive property. So in order to show your work properly for distributive property, you would want to distribute that 6. So the 6 is attached to this parenthesis, so it gets distributed to everything inside the parenthesis. So again, I'm going to do these arrows, which means I'm distributing it. So I'm going to do a middle step for the first few problems, and then you'll notice that I dropped that middle step. The middle step is not required, but it's a good way to slow yourself down and to double check your work to make sure that you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing. So again, it's not something that's necessarily required, depending on your math teacher. I don't require it, but it's a good one to start with, and then eventually we'll drop. So this is the middle step. So I'm going to do 6 times 3, and then I'm going to add that to 6 times 4. Okay, so this is called my middle step in my class. Okay, so writing out the actual distribution, and then we're going to actually go through and solve it. So 6 times 3 is 18, and then we're going to add that to 6 times 4, which is 24. And on these types of problems, you want to add these final numbers since they're both constants. The goal is to always combine like terms. So these are both like because they're both constants, which just means a number by itself. So we're going to combine them. So over here on the side, I will add 24 and 18. Doesn't matter if you put the 18 on top or on the bottom. Same with 24 because they're being added. 8 plus 4 is 12. Carry the 1, and then I have 2, 3, 4. So my answer for this is 42. And that's just my simplification. Okay, next problem. Let's do 3 and x plus 7. Okay, again, this 3 is being distributed into the parenthesis. And you know it's a distributive property problem because of the way it looks, okay? Because it's set up with something attached to a parenthesis. And again, the parenthesis typically has operations in it, but it doesn't have to. So this is also distributive property, technically. Okay, so again, we'll write the middle step. This is going to be 3 times x plus 3 times 7. And we're going to simplify these two terms here. So we have 3 times x, which just means I squish them together, 3x. That's what happens when you multiply, you squish them together like that. This is simplified. Bring down my plus sign. 3 times 7, which is 21. This is my simplified expression, okay? Notice there's no equal sign because these are expressions. And you're not trying to solve for x on these. We don't know what x is, so you're not substituting. This is the answer. As complicated maybe as that looks. There's nothing more to it than that, okay? All right, let's try a few more. Okay, let's try this one. Let's do 5 times 7 plus 2x. Okay, again, we're going to distribute this 5. So this 5 is going to be multiplied to both terms that are in the parenthesis. Write down your middle step, which is 5 times 7 plus 5 times 2x. And then we're going to simplify. 5 times 7 is 35. Bring down my plus sign. 5 times 2x, which is going to be 10x, because it's 5 times 2, and then you tack on the x at the end. This is my simplified answer. All right, let's try some subtraction problems. Let's do 3, and in the parenthesis, let's do 2x minus 8. Okay, so again, still distributing to everything in the parenthesis. We're going to be careful because we have a subtraction sign, and anything behind a subtraction sign is a negative number. So this is actually looked at as negative 8. Okay, here we go. 3 times 2 is 6. Oh, I'm going to do the middle step still. Sorry, I'm trying to go too quickly here. So this is going to be 3 times 2x, and then I'm going to bring down my subtraction sign, and this is 3 times 8. Okay, so 3 times 2x is going to be 6x, and then I'm subtracting 3 times 8, which is 24. Okay, that is my simplified answer. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do 7 times 4 minus 2x. Okay, we're going to distribute. The 7 goes to everything in the parenthesis, which is going to be 7 times 4 minus 7 times 2x. And then we're going to simplify. 7 times 4 is 28 minus 7 times 2, which is 14. And don't forget your x. This is your simplified answer. Okay, let's try another. Let's do a negative 8 times 4x minus 9. Okay, so this one's probably going to be one of the more complicated ones just because you have a negative here and a subtraction. So you need to be very careful with your integer rules. So let's distribute this negative 8. Okay, we have negative 8. And we're multiplying it by 4x. And then we have a subtraction sign we need to bring down. And then we have negative 8 times 9. Okay, and for these purposes, we will do, since I'm doing the middle step, we'll do it this way. But this second distributive property piece is negative 8 times negative 9, which is actually going to be a positive 72. So we're going to stop and we're going to lose the subtract a negative. If you watch my integer video, you'll understand more about why we don't subtract a negative. But when you have a subtraction and a negative sign next to each other, they actually connect and they can turn into a plus sign. So we connect these two together. This pen doesn't want to work. Connect those two together and we can actually have a plus. So this is negative 8 times 4x, which is going to be a negative 32x. Because we have different signs, it's a negative answer. That is an integer rule. Now this is a plus because we had minus a negative. So we can just multiply these two just as normal. So 8 times 9, which is 72. This is my final answer, simplified answer. Okay, let's try a few more. Okay, let's try a longer distributive property problem. So if I have 3, and let's see, how about if we do 4x minus 5y plus 10 minus, let's go 7z. Okay, so this is distributive property with 4 terms. And you know it's 4 terms because they're separated by operation symbols. There's 3 operation symbols. Each of these is called a term. So this 3 is going to be distributed to everything in the parenthesis. And again, you know this is a distributive property problem because you have something attached to a parenthesis. Okay? All right, so we are going to multiply all of these. And again, I'm going to write the middle step for this problem, and then I'm going to start dropping that middle step for the remaining examples. So I have 3 times 4x first. Then I bring down my subtraction sign. 3 times 5y. Bring down my plus sign. 3 times 10. And bring down my subtraction sign. 3 times 7z. Okay, and then I'm just going to go through and simplify all these. So 3 times 4 is 12x minus 3 times 5, which is 15, and the y, plus 3 times 10, which is 30, and minus 3 times 7z, which is 21z. Okay. That answer, I would take that answer in that order for my pre-algebra class, maybe my algebra 1 class, but you want to have a simplified answer that is in standard form. And standard form means that it's alphabetical for your variables, so it starts with the lowest alphabet, ends with the higher alphabet, and then your constant is listed last. And remember, the constant is the one that has the number by itself. Okay, so I'm going to rearrange these so they're in the correct order. So it's x, y, z, so I need to bring my x down first. I need to bring down my y. Make sure you bring the subtraction sign with it because it's a negative. I'm going to bring down my z. That subtraction sign goes with the z term. And then I'm going to bring down my constant, which is behind a plus sign. So this is the simplified answer in standard form. Again, I would take it in this form, but not all math teachers would. So I would err on the side of caution and learn how to write stuff in standard form, which is alphabetical, and then your constant goes at the end. Okay, let's try a few more, and we're going to drop that middle step, and let's see how we do. And then I'm going to let you go and practice. Remember, the best way to actually understand this math is to get some practice in, okay? All right, here we go. So let's do 3, 7 plus 10x, okay? Again, we're gonna distribute. Sorry, I'm using a lot of the same numbers. I'm just making them up in my head, and the same numbers just keep popping up. So I'll try to mix it up on the next one. So 3 times 7 is 21, plus 3 times 10x, which is 30x. This is my simplified answer. Okay. Okay. 8, 4z minus 9. Okay. Again, we're going to distribute that 8. And these arrows, again, not necessary, but if you want to do them and if you need to do them, it's totally fine. It's a good reminder of what you're doing. So 8 times 4, 32. Bring down your z also. Make sure you multiply that in. And then I have a subtraction sign. 8 times 9, 72. Okay. Let's do negative 6. X plus 4y minus 1. That's a minus. Okay. Again, we're going to multiply -6 to everything in the parenthesis. So -6 times x is -6x. -6 times positive 4y is a -24y. Those are integer rules, different signs, negative answer. And negative times negative means positive 6. Okay, so if I have a negative times a negative, it becomes a positive. And this is my simplified answer. Okay, let's do another. Let's do 2 times 7 minus 4x. Again, distribute. So 2 times 7 is 14. Bring down my subtraction. 2 times 4 is 8, and I need my x. This is my final answer. All right, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to put my term that's attached to the parenthesis on the right side, and you solve it the exact same way, okay? So this is going to be x plus 3, and outside the parentheses, I'm going to have 11. So it's just distributing backwards, but that's okay. You can do that. You can also rewrite the problem. This 11 can be rewritten at the front over here, okay? It means the exact same thing. So if you want to move the 11 to the front of the parentheses before you start solving it, there's nothing wrong with that. But what you're doing on this one, and since this one's backwards, I will write the middle step. What you're doing on this one is you're multiplying 11 to everything in the parentheses, and they need to stay in the order of the parentheses. So it's 11 times x. So I'm going to write it this direction, and then bring down my plus sign, and then it's 3 times 11. Okay, so simplified. Even though these are written in this direction, you have to flip them. The coefficient goes first. So this is going to be 11x plus 33. 11 times 3, 33. This is my simplified answer. Okay, let's write another one that's backwards. So let's do 7 on the outside here, and we're going to do 5x plus 7 on the inside. So this is 7 distributed to both terms. And again, this is going to be 7 times 5x, which is 35x first, plus 7 times 7, which is 49. Okay? All right, we're going to do one more, and we're going to call it a day. You can also apply decimals and fractions to these, but that will be another time later on. The goal for math is if you can solve a problem with a positive whole number, positive integer, or negative integer, but whole numbers, whole values, that actually is a good way to start your practice. Then you can try to apply negatives decimals and fractions. If you try to apply decimals and fractions in the beginning, it's just going to get confusing. So you need to be careful with that. Okay, last one for today. So I'm going to put a 3x outside my parenthesis. And in my parenthesis, I'm going to put a 4 plus 2. Okay, and I'm going to distribute again to everything in the parenthesis, making sure that my answer is in the same order of the parenthesis. Okay, here we go. So this is going to be 4 times 3x squared. So 4 times 3 is 12. And I need my x. Bring down my plus sign. 2 times 3x is going to be 6x. And this is my simplified answer. Okay, I hope this helps with distributive property. And I look forward to seeing you again in the future on videos later on. Thanks so much. Make sure you practice, and good luck with your math confidence, increasing it and getting better at your math. Thanks.